Our first guest tonight played quarterback at BYU and with the 49ers. He was also the quarterback's coach and offensive coordinator for the Cougars, and that makes him an expert on what we want to talk about tonight, as do all of you, based on the comments on the stream. Our pleasure to welcome our friend Brandon Doman back to the Wise Guys. And Brandon, can you believe that we've got games this weekend? That it's actually here?
It's about time. I'm bored to death. I need something to do.
From a player and coach's perspective, what is the final 2-week build-up to a season opener like?
It's all game prep now. They've transitioned into preparing for Portland State, for Stanford, East Carolina. They're off into their first three opponents, and obviously BYU needs to finalize their quarterback position and begin dumping as many reps as they can into their starter. But it's game prep, and game planning now.
It's not official, but last week comments coming out of camp from A-Rod and from Kalani were, hey, we're now 3 weeks into this thing, and here's this kid that never had a practice at BYU, and he's staying right even with the guys that have been here for a year, and that says a lot to us. So we're going to throw him in with a bunch of number one reps this week, and we're going to put pressure on him and see if he still holds up with all the pressure on him. And from all accounts, it sounds like he held up pretty good this last week. So let's just make this assumption it's him. And I'm aware that if he goes out and throws like 10 picks this week in practice, he's not going to be the guy, right? It's just he could be, because they feel really good about actually all four guys they have. But let's say that he's the guy at quarterback. What do you do the next couple of weeks for him if you're Aaron Roderick to get him ready to play when he's never played a Division I game in his life?
Well, I know that they're going to try and get him in the stadium a couple times. They did a scrimmage here just a couple days ago in the stadium, or at least a practice, and invited some Cougar Club members down. I think that's strategic. Put him in the stadium, put some people in the stands, and they'll do that a couple more times, just so he's in the building, in the locker room, out on the field, and then develop a game plan around him that he can execute. And it's going to be a little different for him than it would be for McCae. I think McCae would be a little bit more advanced in the playbook, even though this young freshman's showing signs of being able to manage the playbook. It just would be a serious mistake to give him too much to do. So what can he execute? I would make sure you have a run game ready to go. And if you've got a run game ready to go, what role does he play in that? Make sure that he can execute the role. And it looks like a young man that can do that. He's had plenty of QB run game stuff in high school. So be very, simplify that in a way that he knows how to execute it like he did in high school, and then get some run pass option stuff out of that he can execute. And, a little bit of some rollout and some play action, and make it very simple for him. He's got plenty of skill. So I suspect that Aaron knows exactly what he's doing, and they'll do a good job.
As you speak, Timothy checks in on the stream from Perth, Australia. So happy Tuesday, Timothy. Hope things are going good.
And he does say,
there.
I love the experience and thoughts from Brandon. So there you go. He specifically called you out, Brandon, from Australia.
Hey, let me piggyback onto that question that Blaine asked you. How do you call that opening game, considering the strengths of the team and the newness at quarterback, and you're thinking of your first 4 plays of his career? What are you going to do?
It's a discovery game. They need to try several different things to find out what their team can do. But you're going to ask me later in the show, one of my favorite things about an opening game is the discovery aspect of the game. And that's from a coach's perspective. What we think we know, we act like we know, we really don't know. So until we get into that game and we actually start seeing live bullets from true competition, we're going to find out what we really have. And I think, the beauty of a Portland State game is let's try a handful of things. Let's give him, several different opportunities to see what he can do and advance the ball down the field.
Well, do you start like, okay, LJ, we're going off right tackle, and are you just going to go with the basic thing? Or you're going to roll him out and go from there? What are you going to do? What's your play call?
You're saying the first play of the game?
Oh yeah,
first series. What are you calling for him?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think that you might as well just baptize him and
go
let
deep.
him throw it.
Yeah, let him throw it. Absolutely, that's what I would do. I I'd put him on the move. I don't know what he does well. Those guys are in practice with him every day. What's an easy completion for him where he can, make a simple decision? If it were me, I would, I know McCae Hillstead, so I'd try and find a way to get a quick throw off for him or let him move. But I think it'd be good to let him throw that first play of the game, just get the jitters out for him. If he's a bit of an anxious guy, or he's kind of a ball in a china cabinet a little bit, then let him get a run in. Do something with him where it's a zone read, let him run the ball, or do something to get him into the game a little bit and get, maybe just get hit early on in that game. So identifying what gets him going. Those are a few thoughts I have.
Brandon, it's interesting. Do you approach it a little different? And we kind of set this up earlier and I've been talking to A-Rod all along the way, and he said, here's the good news this year. We're not like having a guy clearly stand out because they're all bad. We're having a guy not clearly stand out because nobody's really taking it by the throat because they're all playing really well. And he's serious about that. And behind the scenes, you and I have had conversations when you were here. A-Rod and I have had conversations. Norm Chow and I have had conversations where it's like, we're just not good at court. Like, we don't have anybody right now. But that's not the case. And McCae, he's very skilled. He's a big playmaker. Trayson's good. They have a young freshman, Gelman from Bountiful, who looks phenomenal in camp right now. So you got 4 good quarterbacks, 2 with experience, a freshman that comes in heralded. When you have guys that could just like step in, do you run the quarterback more? Do you go, you know what? We're not going to try to protect the quarterback at all. We're going to run Bear a bunch because if he gets hurt or if McCae goes in, we're not going to hold back running McCae. If McCae ends up being the guy in 2 weeks, we're going to run McCae because that's what he does well. If he gets hurt, that's okay because 2 and 3 are good. Do you approach it differently?
Well, let me comment first on having 4 quarterbacks. McCae Hillstead is one of my son's very close friends. They went to high school together. I know McCae well, so I'm a big fan of McCae.
Sure.
But I'm a bit concerned for McCae in that he hasn't been named the starter thus far. They know him. They know him well. They've had him for over a year now, and through spring and through the summer. And sometimes my concern is even though we've got good players, that maybe they don't have a quarterback yet. Maybe they really don't. And so we may say, well, we got a bunch of good athletes and a bunch of good players. The longer this goes, and I think with some uncertainty, I do think they're a little bit concerned. And Bear is coming in, highly touted, highly recruited player. I'm sure he would not have come in the atmosphere that he came in had he not been given some certainty that he would be given a very, very good shot at this. So not that he was promised the starting job, but he was started a pretty dang good shot at it. And otherwise he wouldn't be here. So they've got to give Bear a real fair shot at this. Otherwise they would have been breaking some promises that they gave him early in recruiting. So here you got a young man that probably was given a lot of opportunity and is a standout guy going against a McCae Hillstead that I think, really has the capabilities, but there's been some concern about can he really do it? And my advice to McCae is hang in there, brother. I've been there. I know what that feels like. Mm-hmm. You hang in there, you have your helmet right next to your side and be ready to go. And my advice to Bear is you give it everything you got, take full advantage of this opportunity because sometimes you only get one shot at it. And that's the concern about playing a freshman this early. And so BYU's got to be really smart now about how they choose to go about this with Bear and McCae. And I know they're having all those conversations, but those are the thoughts that continue to come to my mind. Secondly, I don't think BYU's offensive line and run game, even though we're excited about some of the freshness there, I don't think it's good enough without quarterback involvement. I just don't think in the Big 12 and the defenses they're going to see, if there's not an active quarterback in the scheme, I don't think the running game is going to be good enough. So, yes, they're going to have to use the quarterback.
Think about that too, Brandon. In this league, the best quarterbacks in the league, they're all utilized in the run game and moving around. I can't think of a quarterback in this league that's the old school 6'4", drop back, pocket pass guy, because those guys get destroyed in this league. It's a league where you got to move the guy around, right?
Yeah, they're so athletic. I mean, just think about University of Utah's defense. They have such a good pass rush. They have such a great run stop defense. You insert a quarterback that can move. My experience against them over the years has been that is the neutralizer, or I should say the equalizer, that truly now creates a mismatch for them in the man-to-man schemes that they have. And BYU wants to play more man-to-man defense because they've got more athleticism. So a quarterback athlete in that setting, if you miss it on defense, if somehow you don't cover down a particular gap and you have an athletic quarterback, they really can equalize athleticism and create some advantage for the offense. So that's it. You're seeing it more and more, and hopefully BYU will take the advantage of that, because I think they got guys that can do it.
Former Cougar quarterback coach, offensive coordinator Brandon Doman on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus Eddie and by Mountain America Credit Union. Ryan, a Skyline grad, is on the stream from Memphis, Tennessee. There you go. Represent the Eagles, right? Is it the Eagles, the Skyline Eagles? Scott Ernest from Idaho Falls says he's been watching you since you were playing Pee Wee football. So
that's wild.
I don't know if that's an old neighbor or what. And
I feel like I have too.
Yeah.
How much older is Kevin than you, Brandon?
Kevin is, let's see, he's 15 years older than me.
Yeah. So when I was playing with Kevin, and I knew of your whole family, we probably were watching you play Little League football. So I watched Brandon play Little League.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I certainly watched him at Skyline in a bunch of games because we were really following him then.
Here's an expert-related question, since we believe you are one, and we love when you open some insights here. But in that first quarter against Portland State, and it is Bear Bachmeier quarterback, what are the conversations taking place between him, Matt Mitchell, the quarterback coach, and Roderick up in the booth in that first quarter of this first game of what might be a 4-year run or a one-game experiment? But what's being talked about between those three?
First thing first, have fun, be Bear. You know who Bear is. You be the guy that you were raised to be, and have a ton of fun out there. Don't let anything distract you from the love of the game, the love of the moment, and you play like you know how to play. And I think sometimes coaches don't do a very good job of just making sure that he knows, we got you, we know who you are, we trust you, you go play. And then secondly, every teaching moment you can give him is critical. So he needs to hear really one, maybe two voices. If he has three voices, it's too many. And enabling him to now discover how to move the chains. Completions equal first downs, and first downs equal touchdowns. And teach him in that setting, where might he have made some improvements on the drive before to have kept the chains moving. And there'll be so many teaching moments, and even in the Portland State game, because not everything's going to go right, even though the opponent may not be as good as a Stanford or down the road. Help him recognize that he is the last line of defense, and give him as many simple successes along the way in that game as you can, building upon knowing what's coming down the road.
You've been in a situation where you weren't the guy, and then you were the guy. I've been in that situation. What kinds of things will you be looking for and asking from the guys that are 2 and 3 in this situation? What do they need to do? And let's say it's Bear. It doesn't really matter. If it's Bear and it's McCae and Trayson backing up, or if it's McCae and it's Bear and Trayson backing up, what do you need from those other two guys?
Be a teammate. Be completely engaged in the game. Be engaged in the game plan. Be engaged in all the meeting prep going into the game. Be engaged in pregame conversation. They're going to have to be signaling to the field, so they're going to have to be very involved in supporting the success of the offense. And the players are watching, the coaches are watching, they know who you are, and at some point, in most cases, statistics are going to say, at some point, you're going to get a shot. Mm-hmm. When that shot comes, and I said it about Bear, when that shot comes, what did you do with it? And I was raised as a little kid that preparation plus opportunity equals success.
And how did you, take people back? You weren't the guy that was supposed to be starting when you finally started. Some things had to happen for you to end up in that starting role. And to take us back to that for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I considered transferring twice to the University of Utah. I mean, I went to Ron McBride's office and tried to convince him to let me transfer up there, and he would have been glad to take me. But I was just fortunate for myself that never materialized. So fast forward through those experiences, I just begged the coaches. And I don't know how you did it, Blaine, but I was begging Robbie Bosco. I was begging Lance Reynolds and Norm Chow, just give me some reps. I want to get better. I need opportunities just to improve my game. If you want me to stay at quarterback, then let me have some shots at it. If there's going to be a meeting with a quarterback, don't go have a private closed door meeting without me. Let me sit in the back corner, if anything. Just let me hear what you're saying. Let me be involved in what's going on, because I'm not getting better. And in order for me to be a quarterback, I got to be finding some success along the way. And to their credit, they let that happen. So you just have to be determined and have some grit, some stick-to-itiveness to believe in yourself and believe in the process. And then by danged if Brett Ingeman didn't get hurt and then Charlie Peterson didn't get hurt. They got hurt and they couldn't play. I'd have never played, but they got hurt in such a way that they could not play. And so when I was put in, there was nobody else to put in. I was the only one there. So when I got in, fortunately, it worked, and I was ready to play. And a lot of that has to do with the coaches committing to say, okay, Brandon, we'll keep you engaged. We'll keep you involved. And I was ready when the time came.
Yeah, if you weren't ready, when somebody else came, they would have put you back in. But the advice that you just gave to Bear Bachmeier, you applied to yourself, where when the opportunity comes, you better grab it, which you did, and then it was like he's never coming off the field. And that's at any position, right? I think about Bruce Mitchell last year. He goes in for a couple of games for Connor Pay, and they don't even know what they have. And then they're 2 games in, and they go, okay, Connor's coming back. This dude can play. We better start him at guard. And they moved him over to play him at guard, and now he's just the automatic starting center this year. And so I guess that applies to these guys. But how do you, like, if you're not the guy and you want him to be the guy, how do you keep that mentality and not get down if the other guy plays a couple of games and starts to play well? How do you stay in it?
It's so hard. You have to surround yourself with people that believe in you. So the guys that aren't on the sideline, it can't just be the locker room. It can't just be the coaches. When you go home at night and you're getting on the phone, who are you talking to? Who's mentoring you? Who's supporting you from the sidelines and from the bleachers? And I just, I get the chills thinking about it. It's amazing. You're 48 years old and I still get the chills thinking about it. I had an unbelievable supporting cast, most of whom were 3 older brothers that just parked their tents outside my house, my life, and they just made sure that I never stopped believing. And my dad and my mom. And so who's in your camp helping you continue to believe? And if you don't have a camp, I'll be your camp. You call me on the phone, but you find a camp that's going to believe in you and keep you moving forward.
Greg Norton's on the stream from the 8th tee at Oak Ridge Country Club. I don't know how you can listen to the wise guys and stay focused on what you're about to do.
Earbuds, AirPods, I don't know what they call it.
But we're glad to have you with us with Brandon Doman. If you go with a freshman quarterback, there's more than this season at play, right? You're making a long-term decision. Aren't you pretty much banking on we're going with this guy for the next 3 to 4 years? Isn't that ideally if Bachmeier's good enough to go, he goes until Ryder Lions? Is that kind of how you would make this choice?
I mean, that's how they're looking at it. They wouldn't play him unless they didn't think that he was the best guy to win. If they didn't feel like he gave them the best shot at winning, they would put another guy in. And that's clearly the direction they're moving in. They feel like he gives them the best chance to win now. And clearly they recognize that the next few years, because they don't have anybody else. And I know that the other quarterback from Bountiful, I forgot his name. Anyways, is probably not going to be here.
Yeah, he leaves in January on a mission. He's adamant about that, which I love, right?
Yeah.
He's the biggest surprise of fall camp, honestly, Brandon. Like, he comes in and 3 days later, like, okay, let's just put this kid on scholarship. He needs to come back here after his mission. We had no idea he was this good.
I've heard that from a number of people, that this kid may be the best athlete in the state of Utah his age.
Right, he's 6'3" and has a 40-inch vertical jump and runs 4.4 or 40.
That's what I've heard. I've heard that BYU got an unbelievable get out of that young man.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I love guys like that come in. I mean, So it'll be fun to get him back. They've signed they've got some full cupboards finally.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, with Jake leaving, had they not had some cupboards, they'd be in a serious dilemma. So as Blaine said earlier, we believe and we're hopeful that the guys that they got are good players. And if that's the case, then we should be in good shape. Even if Bear or McCae or whoever else is in the game, we should have enough talent to play.
Hey, I want to run something by, because I say this and people look at me like I'm crazy. And I want to get your take on it. And if I'm crazy, you need to tell me I'm crazy. People are like, well, so if Bear's the guy, he's the guy, or McCae until Ryder comes back. And I say, yeah, I think Ryder is a phenomenal talent, but I have no idea if Ryder's going to be a good Division I quarterback. And they look at me like, are you out of your mind? And I go, we've had a lot of really highly, and as has everyone else, highly recruited quarterbacks, and the processing speed has to make such a jump from high school to college. Some unbelievable athletes that can throw the ball like crazy and throw for 5,000 yards in a high school senior season don't translate, and you don't know until they're there and they're playing against the speed of these defenses. And so I believe that he's got a much better chance than anybody else we could sign, because all the signs are. But there's no guarantee with anybody. And when I say that, Brandon, people act like I'm out of my mind. Yeah. They're like, no, he's the number one quarterback recruit in the country. I'm like, I'm telling you guys, I love the kid. I think he's going to be great, but I don't know. Am I crazy?
I mean, he has to, there's so many factors. How does the guy fit in socially? How does he fit in the locker room? What kind of work ethic does he have? What habitual behaviors does he bring with him? Is he a leader? Does he have grit? Does he have all these other intangible features that you expect them to have? And then all of a sudden you put him with a bunch of 22, 23, 24-year-olds. And if he doesn't have it, they don't care. They just don't care that you were a big-time recruit. Put your big boy pants on and come on in this locker room and you flip and prove it to us. And he's going to have to prove it, just like everybody else.
Former 49ers quarterback Brandon Doman on the Wise Guys. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. Carolyn on the stream from Phoenix. Jason's in Oklahoma City as we span the country and the globe here tonight. Time for 5 questions with Brandon, presented by Strategy Square. Let Chantal build your company's social media presence at strategysquare.co. On Saturday, August 25th, 2001, Brandon led the Cougars to a 70-35 win over Tulane at LaVell Edwards Stadium. Counted for 4 touchdowns. Was done for the day by the end of the third quarter. Nice job. That's a true BYU star statistic. Were you in the fourth quarter? McMahon, Young, Detmer, Doman, they like to sit out the fourth quarters when the score's that way. BYU opens the new season a week from Saturday at LaVell Edwards Stadium, so we thought this would be a perfect time to ask Brandon his 5 favorite things about playing or coaching in a season opener. And we gave you a few days to think about it because you've done it all, and I'm eager to see what you came up with.
Well, I actually made a little note here. Let me start with number 1. I think this is the same as a player as it was as a coach. I just love the fans in the stands. I just love that part of the first game, the game opener. There's so much excitement. Football's been away from us for way too long, and we can't wait to get back in the stadium. And it's just fun to see the fans there and the enthusiasm of the fans. I love competing. Finally, you're looking across the field and there's someone in a different colored jersey, and that's the first whack at it you get, and you've been waiting for it for a long time. I love that part of the first game. I love in Cougar Stadium, I love late summer freshly cut grass. It's the first game of the year. It smells different. You can kind of smell it as you're coming into the stadium. I just love that part of it. As a player, I loved brand new uniforms. I love putting on your jersey for the first time, your pants. I love getting, feeling like I think a player plays good if they look good. So you're trying to look sweet in the locker room. I love that part of it. I think as a football coach, as I said earlier, I love the discovery of the first game. I love the new team. I love the new plan. I love the discovery they go through. And there are some players that we don't know yet. They're going to rise up, and you just don't know who they're going to be, and we're not expecting them. We're just not expecting them, and a couple of them are going to become stars this year, and it'll start game one. And I'm so excited to find out who those guys are going to be. We know who the expected stars are going to be, but there's going to be a couple sleepers that come out of this thing. Hopefully it's Bear or McCae, but there's going to be some others. It's going to be fun to watch.
Good stuff. You said number one was fans in the stands. Does running out of that tunnel the first time every year, does that ever get old? I mean, it doesn't get old all season long, but the first run out of the season out of that tunnel, whether you're a freshman or a senior, does that ever get old?
That's part of it. That's part of the fans in the stands. And I mean, they do that alumni game. I can't help myself, even as a 48-year-old man, running out of that tunnel. It's pretty good.
Now, look, when you're running out there with 105 or 10 or however many, how many close calls have you had for tripping and going down and taking 20 guys behind you?
I have never tripped or almost tripped. But I've seen some guys fall down.
Yeah.
Before.
And then, one goes down. Sometimes you see it in Pee Wee football. One goes down, the whole team goes down.
Yeah, no, I've never actually been a part of that, but myself personally, but I've seen it. I've seen it happen.
Have you run the flag out since you've been out of coaching here? Have you run it out?
Yeah, I almost pulled my hamstring.
See, that's what I was going to ask you about, because that's a whole different deal. Like, you could fall doing that.
Well, the team's running behind you, so you better get moving. Otherwise, trample you down.
That's a lot of pressure. Mark's on the stream from New Jersey. Thomas is in Delaware tonight. Stan is in Delco, Idaho. I'll listen to Brandon Doman. By the way, Brandon, you and Robbie Bosco are the only Cougars in program history to go 14-0 in your first 14 starts. That's not bad.
Well, Robbie's a better golfer than me, so he must have won the national championship. We didn't.
He's a better golfer than most people I know. So
I know.
He loves
Dang
it. I know. He just has he's mastered that game when he was in high school. So we were too busy actually being football players while Robbie was being a golfer that on the side played quarterback. And that's why we'll never catch him as golfers.
Hey, let's
He's got
finish.
that long, lanky, twisty body.
Yep.
He just, I don't know what it is.
Well, if you have no muscle, then you have big range of motion. You can really turn on the ball. That's the thing.
The muscles don't get in the way of his swing.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
I was in the weight room doing cleans one time, and he came running in there full speed and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm lifting weights. Quarterbacks don't lift weights." I'm like, "Get out of here. I lift weights." Anyway.
He had a whole opinion about quarterbacks. Like, really quick story. We're playing in the vet against Temple. And Chad can attest to this. Back in the old days, before Lincoln Financial, the vet was a rough place to play, right? And Glenn Kozlowski, and you remember Glenn, Brandon, you were watching him play when you were just a little kid. He decides to get in a fight with the fans in the corner of the stadium, and they're coming out of the stands. And literally our whole team runs down to the corner to defend, and I'm sitting on a bench next to Robbie, and I notice our entire team's gone, and we're sitting next to each other. And he's got a little Gatorade cup in his hand, and I go, "Robbie, like, the whole team's down there fighting. Should we go down there?" And he goes, "Dude, we're quarterbacks." And then he just drank his drink.
That's exactly right. What it is.
Yeah, he knew what our role was. It was not to get in fights.
Hey, let's finish this note from Steve. Says, Brandon played up a year, was our quarterback on our sophomore football team at Skyline High, if I'm remembering correctly. Is that right?
Yes.
It's Steve Houston, and he's checking in from New Hampshire, one of your old teammates.
All right, Steve.
Very
Love
good.
it.
The great Brandon Doman on with us tonight. Thank you so much for your time. We're excited for the season, and we look forward to having you on during the season. And we kind of dissect what you're seeing, what you like, what you don't like, and all that stuff. But we love having you on the show, and you know that. Thank you.
And thanks for having me.
And Brandon, love to your whole family, brother. You know the Fowlers love the Domans, so.
Likewise. Thank you, guys.
See you, brother.
You got it. The great Brandon Doman. He rolled out a 12-0 start. On his senior season. And remember, he won the last two games of his, beat New Mexico, beat Utah, and 14-0 in his first 14 starts. And then, of course, Robbie went undefeated in 84 then beat Boston College in 85 and then got beat
They lost to UCLA
in the 15th game.